So to get this piece to have the style that you want, there are two main types of articulation. You've got the very short staccato, and then you've got long legato lines. And you see that in the first phrase. First two measures are staccato, and then you get da da dee da dee, very long, very legato. So to get my staccato nice and short, I'm not trying to move my jaw a lot. I'm trying to just do it all with the tongue and keeping air moving through it. If you're stopping your air in between, if you get that kind of frantic feeling, your staccato is not going to be as short as you want, and it's just so much more difficult. So when I'm practicing that staccato, I'm thinking about fast air and a really short articulation from the tongue. And to keep those notes from cracking, for the F sharp and the G sharp, it's all about the half full, of course. And then for the A, B, C natural, I don't recommend flicking for this, since it would be very fast thumb movement. Instead, I just hold down that C flick key. So if you count it from whisper key, 1, 2, 3, 4, I hold that down for A, B, and C. And then you don't need a flick key for the D. So I'm going from half whole on the F sharp, G sharp, moving to holding down the flick key or venting the A, B, C. And that's how I can get really clear articulation on that. You do need to practice that articulation, that short staccato, piano, like the beginning, and then after the fermata, the same articulation, but mezzo forte, which is gonna feel a little different. So practice going from piano to mezzo forte. It will feel a little different, but basically more air is gonna get you to that mezzo forte. The other dynamic thing that I would point out is that you have a lot of sudden dynamic shifts in this. So for instance, the second line, you're going from nice and piano to that sudden forte on the low G. So I try to make a huge difference. And what helps is really opening up, like you open up so that the reed can vibrate more freely, and you have to send a lot of air down there. You can also pull the reed out just a little bit. So if my normal embouchure is here, I'll pull out to like here. And that just gives a little bit more freedom for those low notes to vibrate. The same thing happens at the end, except instead of going from piano to forte, we're going from mezzo forte to fortissimo, but you still want that same sudden, surprising energy. So I would really push that fortissimo at the end. You've gotten to the end, you're probably out of air, so get all your air through the bassoon. The highest notes in this etude might be a little unfamiliar, especially high G sharp and A. And the most important thing is to hit the exact right fingering. I'm going to show the fingerings that I use. Take a screenshot. And if you don't hit that exact fingering, the note might come out, but it'll be possibly out of tune and it's very prone to crack. So to get this really solid with consistent high A's and high G sharps, be very careful with the fingering that you use and let your air get the high note to come out. So don't compress with your jaw, don't tighten anything in your face. Your embouchure should feel the same for flick A and high A. So you're letting your fingers do the work, not your embouchure. And I would recommend practicing very slowly and getting these transitions up to the high notes. So for instance, second line, last measure. So that change from should not be nope. Let your fingers do the work. Let your air go through it.
This section might be the most difficult in this etude. It's definitely the most difficult to read with all of the accidentals. So I like to break it down into 2 note groupings to make it make sense. So group 1 is going to be from the downbeat to the third beat of each measure. And if you look, they start and end on the same note. A sharp is the enharmonic equivalent of B flat, same for G sharp and A flat. So I'm going to aim for those notes. Bum, be, da, dee, and leave out the and of 3 for now.
So you can kind of hear, that's the exact same arpeggio, and it just moves down by step. So I would practice it until that arpeggio feels really comfortable. It's a diminished 7th arpeggio, if that matters. So once I've got that piece of it, the next note grouping I go to is beats 3 leading to 1. So that would be moving down in the half steps, so it's like a chromatic scale. So when you combine this, it's an arpeggio plus a little chromatic. Bum, be, da, dee, ba, dee, da, dee, dee. And practicing those separately helps ground your fingers, and it helps make sense in your brain so that when you're looking at it, you're not reading every single note every single time.
Next, let's zoom in on these 16th notes after the double bar. I like to use full fingerings for the second line, but I do have some fingering suggestions for the third line to make that a little bit easier. First, I'll show you the full standard fingering and then the little trick I use. To make this a little easier, I keep the right hand of the fingerings the same, but I leave my half hole open on the first finger. Same idea for the lower octave. Instead of closing the half hole on the A like the standard fingering, I leave it open. The full fingering is possible, but this little trick helps me. Happy practicing!